Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison, and I want to welcome you to day 110 of Humanity Rising. Humanity Rising is an initiative of Ubiquity University and over 300 partnering organizations to create a global commons so that on a daily basis, people from around the world can just tune in, find out what's happening, share their experiences, and take counsel together as to how we can work more effectively to ensure that the world beyond this pandemic will be more sustainable and resilient and abundant and healthy and in alignment with natural systems. Today, the World Health Organization announced that it's now projected that upwards of 10% of the entire human race will be infected with COVID-19. Now, that's an astonishing assertion. That's 760 million people. And right now, there's reported cases of about 37 million. So how we're going to get from 37 million to 760 million is unclear. There are indications that only a fraction of the reported cases, or rather only a fraction of the real cases are being reported to a significant degree because of lack of testing. So far more people have COVID-19 than we know. I mentioned a couple of days ago that in India alone, they're talking about escalating to over 60 million cases over the next several months. I raise this because the pandemic is not going away. 6 months in, we're looking at a future where the pandemic could be with us, certainly through the winter, and possibly into next spring and summer and most of 2021. Just imagine for a moment crippled economies, dysfunctional and incompetent governments, rising COVID cases. How are we to endure? That's a major question that's implied in the assertion that 1/10 of the human race could be infected. And that's why every day, Monday through Friday, Ubiquity and its partners want to bring Humanity Rising so we can just build community together as we all traverse an unknown. We'll turn to the program for today in a moment, but as we want to do each day is just take 60 seconds, my friends, and just stop your world. Close your eyes. Put your attention on your heart. Try to listen to your heartbeat in a spirit of gratitude and thanksgiving that you're alive at this critical moment. As you feel your heart, tune into the hearts of all those people on this call and around the world working for a better world. Thank you, everyone. Within the context of the pandemic, one country has singled itself out as a global example of how not to deal with the pandemic, and that's the United States of America. 4% of the human population, with now over 20% of the cases and over 20% of all the deaths. Over 209,000 Americans have died as a result of COVID in the last 6 months. With a president who has derided it, ridiculed masks, refused to engage in social distancing, and divided the country rather than united the people afflicted with this pandemic. Finally, last week, he succumbed to COVID-19, was taken to Walter Reed Hospital. He's now back, although indications are he's still quite ill. No one is sure exactly what the facts are, as is the case around Donald Trump, where fake news and reality merge into an amalgam of spin and lies and deceit. And in less than 30 days, we have an election. And 6 weeks ago, Trump made it clear that he was not going to honor whatever those election results will be, and will do what is necessary to ensure the continuity of his administration rather than a transition, regardless of the vote. He's cast aspersions on the integrity of the longest lasting democracy in the history of the world. And as I've said several times, in my view, a perverted election that would ensure Trump is able to continue in power would be a greater calamity than the pandemic. We will survive the pandemic one way or another. But if democracy is snuffed out in the United States, that could well be a death knell to democracy just about everywhere. So even as in May, the killing of George Floyd, a young black man at the hands of a white police officer, shook the world with the toxicity of racism in America and globally, and forced all of us to confront the issue of diversity and race. On November 3rd, we're going to confront again in the United States, but also for the world, the dilemma of democracy and authoritarianism. So periodically, we've talked about the election. We had Shelley Alcorn, the chief operating officer of Ubiquity, giving a spellbinding analysis of the rise of fascism last week. And today, we want to draw from the entertainment industry by inviting Aaron Ableman, who's a musician and an artist, a singer, award-winning performer, who has been deeply immersed in Hollywood and the entertainment industry for a very long time, to speak to us about the importance of democracy, the importance of diversity, the importance of voting, and the importance of maintaining, refining our humanity during this critical hour. So thank you everyone for joining. I want to thank our live streaming partners and the 15, 20,000 people who every day through Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn and our sign partners and Celco, others of you who are live streaming. I want to thank the people who join on our Zoom call. Aaron, I turn it over to you.
Peace and blessings, everyone. Thank you so much, Jim. It's a real, true honor to be with you. I feel humbled and incredibly honored to be in this virtual circle. I am, as Jim mentioned, in the creative world and have long been fascinated by the power of myth and story and culture and all the breadth and depth of the arts in how to create circles of inclusion and possibility and evolution, because I do believe that the arts carry that power and potential. And what a better way to start our deep conversation, something that I'm really looking to dive deep with you all. This is truly in service to our collective voice, and I see myself more as a facilitator today, in focus on this last 3.5 weeks, moving into November 3rd. What a profound time. I come to you right now from actually from Princeton, New Jersey, and I wanted to share this story to begin because it's quite profound. The other day, I was visiting the small town of Cranberry, New Jersey. I don't know if you all know where that is. Anybody's heard of it, but it was actually at the edge of a river below the house where Alexander Hamilton once used his headquarters during the American Revolutionary War, and was visited by George Washington and well memorialized by all of the flags, and very, very prominent moment and an iconic moment for me was coming into the town and seeing on one side a giant Trump banner, higher than the American flag, by the way, and then right across the street was a Black Lives Matter, home painted hashtag Black Lives Matter, and just how profound the duality was. And so I was actually on my way with my in-laws to perform a Jewish ritual of tashlich, which is casting off my past year's mistakes. And as I'm there making an offering at the edge of the river, I was verbally targeted, and I looked over because it was shocking to me as I threw a piece of bread into the water. There was actually a fisherman donning a MAGA hat without a mask, telling his 2 kids that I wasn't welcome here. And I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this online, but would you look at that ethnic crap? He yelled. And I was really just perplexed. I was in a moment of prayer, and I'm aware of the times that we're in. So I sort of in the moment brushed it off. But I'd actually just also been filming for a new Get Out the Vote video. So he must have actually seen me crying over the American flag on camera. And out of nowhere, just then, this giant heron bird flew out from the forest above our heads. We all stopped to look up at this epic bird, and I was so moved by the majesty of nature in that moment, and just how profound this experience was that we both shared. I rushed off to catch up with my family, but I as I was running, I said, you know what, I need to say something. And I kind of yelled back to this family that had just yelled something very inappropriate at me. And I said, you know, we may not like each other, but I want you to know that we could still respect each other. And that's really what I was left with is, yeah, that we are coexisting in this country, and I need to figure out a way to, you know, to interact with and continue to expand my circle as a serial phone banker and as someone that is constantly doing outreach and performing for crowds and speaking to very diverse audiences. It's not new to me, but it's always confronting. And with our country on the home stretch to this November 3rd, the stakes have obviously never been higher. Some people are saying this is the most important and consequential vote in human history. We have science and the environment, the courts, healthcare, social justice, immigration, gentrification, a culture of exclusion or inclusion, democracy, or authoritarianism. And arguably we're already there anyway. But the questions that have been coming to me are we a divided states of America? Do we need to find ways of seceding back into bioregions? Or, you know, I always joke that I'm from the United States of California. Or can we actually come together in this time of crisis? And is this crisis, the triple crisis of the pandemic, the systemic racism, which arguably has always just been the undercurrent of this nation, but also now the ecological devastation of climate change and the biodiversity crisis that we're in. So what does freedom really mean if it's only ever been true for some, and who represents the people and who represents the corporations? And these are just some of the questions on the ballot. So because of all this, I've really been looking very deeply at how to add my voice to the cacophony. And again, this is about us all sharing our voices, and rather than reverting to silence and stress and anger or the normal responses, how are we responding to this moment, and how are we actually being proactive? So yeah, in addition to phone banking and donating to candidates, and I've actually decided that using creative media, which is also part of my profession, could be another value add toward inspiring people to get out to the polls. Because if we do flood the polls, there's absolutely nothing that the sick man in the White House can do to stop us. Each one of us needs to remember that the power of the collective is stronger than these singular, you know, no matter how rich and powerful and profoundly scary some of these leaders are in this time of ethno-nationalism and authoritarianism. We have to remember that the people have the power. I've lived in Oakland for a long time, and we always say all power to the people. And that is very, very true, never more true than now. And so with that, I wanted to, I'm really excited about our program today. I wanted to actually start off with something that, yeah, is some of the framework. It's a song. And I'll just share this, and then I'll go into this conversation that I just introduced some of the ideas, and we're gonna actually watch a new music video to get out the vote, which is really exciting. This will be the premiere of us together. But before that, here's a song from my last album called "I Am," and let's see how it goes. I am from Love's Town and going back. Somewhere along the way, I lost the map, got stuck in a trap mix. Lies for the facts now. The dog is the wag. Oh, what a drag, but love will conquer and heal my hate. Love like a songbird and the winds will change. Love like my mom did and fear will turn to faith. That's why I sing with you today. Hey, 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 love yourself today. Hey, 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 love yourself today. I am. There I stood in the mirror, a bathroom break in a world of terror, staring at my shadow like racism, lost in silence, lost in a prism. I wondered if others saw the same thing or not. Hard to trust love, feel like we're caught in a trap of confusion, dreams of store-bought, self-judgment, illusion. We don't know the cost of a life lived free, sweeter than Skittles. Like a rainbow appeared in the middle of my eye, discovered the answer to life's greatest riddle. The world isn't one way or the other, not reality. It's a choice undercover, not a bad or a good, not a boys or a girls, not a black or a white, not a clear or a cloud. Life is lived from the inside out. A crack appeared in my reflection. Patterns emerged from the mess, and I could see through my eyes to the spirit of who I am and why. Who am I? Here we go. I am. I am, I am, I am. I am. I am, I am, I am. I am. I am, I am, I am. I am. Yeah, thank you all so much for indulging me as I take this journey into myself, into this shared self, this shared experiment we call life. And I thought that was a good place to actually kick it off in a way, because, you know, there's such an unbelievable obsession, just unbelievable obsession right now with othering, with, you know, yeah, pointing to the White House or pointing to, you know, the neighbor that did that thing, or that one that did that thing, or maybe it was my mom, or maybe it was my dad, or, you know, looking at all the different ways in which we other and give our power away. And that's very true in a democracy. I shouldn't say that. I should say that's very true in nation building. And it's very difficult because where myself, my own personal self, whatever that is to you, meets the world, seems to me the place of alchemy and possibility and question, right? So how do we remain in our own power and potential and a sense of self-worth and self-reflection and self-integrity, and, you know, just really being willing to look in the mirror as well, while also simultaneously coexisting, interacting with, being in service to, in collaboration, in partnership, in dynamic disagreement, maybe even in argument. And often, I think one of the best things that we've ever pursued in this nation is our power of protest, right? So protest is very central to what the United States experiment is all about. Obama has talked about this at length. Dr. King is the most iconic example, but you look all the way back to the beginning. I mean, we started as a protest nation. And that's a really interesting consideration when you think about some of the greatest contributions that this United States has made to the world. And I think it's also very interesting in the context of where self meets the world in that framing. So how do I, as just this small individual body, floating in space, meeting all these other individual bodies floating in space, form an agreement, some accord that, Sadhguru was talking about this, that the idea of a nation in India it doesn't exist. And part of that is because there's been thousands of years of iterations, and the latest form of Indian democracy is actually is not reaching everyone, because we see the disparities of society. You only have to go to the edges of every village in India to see the unbelievable poverty, the fact that some have never had a healthy meal or had a fully nutritive meal in their life, and how true that is in these United States of America, and how unbelievably disparate and sad that is. So me, myself, I grew up, my mother is a public healthcare nurse and has been a social worker. Her husband, she remarried at my parents divorced at 9 and remarried to a social worker. My father is a farmer and an activist and author. And so I grew up with this very, very deep lens onto the world that says we are only as strong as the weakest amongst us. And if we don't start there, whatever the weakest means, but mainly just the most vulnerable, those that are harvesting our food, those that are homeless, those that are sick, old Christian ideas, that we serve those that are suffering. And again, this is a very central human conversation. It's not as much the conversation around the United States and nation making and democracy. It's really about how are we orienting our values, and how are we inviting others into our own value system at the same time, right? And the values that I was raised with is service and connection and shared oppression and shared suffering and shared liberation, and that we can't actually achieve the kind of goals that we want as a collective unless we really come together, no matter where we are across the spectrum of experience. So that's a very important exploration, and it's deep. It's very challenging and confronting, because for a lot of white America, waking up to the unbelievable the hidden bias, the hidden privileges, the ways in which someone here just wrote another facet, those misusing power are actually spiritually weakest and very dangerous. And it's interesting, because if we're not aware of those dynamics of power within our shared humanity, we can't actually confront it. So having a lens on the ways in which structure and power operates, especially in this very important moment going into the vote, is super important, as we're reaching out and encouraging those, maybe even across the partisan line, to consider what is our shared investment in this nation. And that's a very tough conversation, because what do we share that's what comes up for me, is what do we share as a nation? What do we share as a human race? Are there things that we share? I mean, I think a lot of the great spiritual teachers have always said, oh, we are all one. And, even even Bob Marley, One Love. It makes me think about some of the most evolved and profound mystics throughout history have spoken about oneness, but also there is a natural diversity, a natural difference in every fingerprint, right? Every single one of our fingerprints is unique, and yet we all have one. So how do we build this conversation of shared values, of shared liberation, of shared oppression? How do we continue to wake up to that kind of depth of responsibility? I think for white folks in America, there's an unbelievable depth of grievance, and it's a relearning of our history and unlearning to begin to actually excavate what our ancestors did throughout the history of this country. It's interesting, as someone who's Jewish, and yet I'm lighter skinned Jewish man. I am I'm often confronted by the fact that I have white privilege, and yet what's in my family lineage and my ancestry is stories of oppression and all of the horrors that were done to my people, so to speak. And how difficult that is to hold both of to hold the kind of, I guess you could say, the epigenetic memory of being oppressed while also walking in privilege and in power in this particular bodysuit in this era. And so being very acutely aware and taking toll for that, and taking a deep look in the mirror around what is my responsibility right now as a bridge between, because I have been so fortunate as a bridge builder, gaining access into, executive level boardrooms and conversations with a lot of leaders in power that might not have invited BIPOC voices in. I'm able to be a Trojan horse to say, to speak their language of business, or just to be literate in their world. And also very much as an ambassador and in solidarity with frontlines communities and those that don't have a voice and that don't have the kind of capacity to speak up for their own their own struggle. And so those two poles are very alive for me, and I think very alive for a lot of this country. And I think it's very difficult to consider how we can bridge such vast differences, right? But the great academic John Powell, I don't know if you all know about John Powell, at UC Berkeley, has talked a lot about really exploring the difference between diversity and division. So diversity is celebrating our incredible vastness and all of the different experiences that come together. Division is actually exploiting those. And that, to me, it's the difference between this calling toward democracy versus tribalism, nationalism, fascism, dictatorship. So again, being aware about these really tough power conversations can help us move forward in our outreach and in our engagement. I've just been trying to pay attention to the chat room as well, because I think there's so many great ideas here. I love that. Yeah, I love that we are excavating and really looking at, and thank you about this incredible comment about India, right? Such a vast, unbelievably beautiful country, so many different languages, cultures, very, very robust democracy, and the most remarkable contributions to human evolution. And this is interesting. So Malini, you said that there's never been a leader who's actually said they will honor the result of election. That's really, really interesting. So here we are looking at other examples of nations that are toiling with and wrestling with and going deep into what it means to create a democracy, and how difficult that can be, and how important it is to confront areas that are not in service to the collective well-being, right? This is very, very difficult work. One of the places that I've found an unbelievable illumination and just a grounding and a clarity is actually doing voter engagement work. And it's not very glamorous. You know, I come from, you know, growing up on the stage and, you know, the spotlight and blah de blah. For me, being on stage was very much about just sharing my creativity. It wasn't as much about the glamour of it, but it's still, there's an element of, I have an audience, as opposed to voter outreach, kind of like my years dishwashing or farm working, where you just do the job that's needed, right? And the job for me right now that's needed is to engage with swing state voters and to engage with people that are different than us, because whatever happens on November 3rd, and absolutely we need to fight. I'll out myself and say, as a liberal, we absolutely need a Biden-Harris administration so that our movements can push those, can actually push that administration toward a more progressive agenda. And the policies that are being proposed, just the climate plan alone, being a part of Sunrise Movement, I've seen such an unbelievable scale of youth voice and the clarity of science, right? And so I know that a Biden-Harris administration is going to take on the agenda of movements and will really truly represent the vast majority. It might not be that we're able to ever fully represent all of us, and that's a question I'd love to ask you all what you think about whether or not we actually can have a fully representative democracy. You know, the vote is still out on that one. But yes, absolutely. We need to at least get to level ground where we don't have an administration that is fundamentally destroying everything that is representative. And someone asked me just briefly about, as an American Jew, where do I sit on the Israel-Palestine issue? You know, that can be a longer conversation. I think it's another important issue that is very polarizing. Yet, for me, absolutely, I stand in solidarity with all oppressed peoples, and I stand in solidarity with the Palestinian struggle 100%, because I think it's absolutely unreal that we have the situation that we do there. In some ways, as sacred and holy of a land as that is, that's never an excuse to persecute another people in the way of this modern Holocaust. And I want to also name that the Israeli government is very much a empirical government that does not represent the Jewish people of the world. And let me just state that again. The Israeli government, in the same way that, you know, there's a lot of governments that don't represent their people. This is, you know, this is true. So it's a false equation. You know, when you hear Netanyahu or whoever's, you know, in power, they are talking about, oh, well, we represent the Jewish people. That's actually that's not true. Most Jews of the vast diaspora that we are all over the world do not support, you know, the ways in which the violence and violation of human rights is happening in Palestine. And I think this is very, very important. So I love some of the commentary here. Kindness is essential. Representation is about fairness and kindness. In America, you know, this will, yeah, so representation will prevent political corruption. We need to get big money out of politics. These are all some of the ideas that we're going to be, you know, fighting for together. And we have to continue to vocalize and share with whatever sphere of influence we have. I want to get to another bit of entertainment here, because I think it continues to help bring us together and have this conversation through joy and creativity and story. And I think that storytelling right now is a very non-divisive way to have a conversation about a very divisive time. So I want to encourage all of you, as you're reaching out to your extended families, as you're checking in with folks about their voting plan, as you're encouraging them to lean toward whatever your tendencies are or what your concerns are. I think it's critical. It's critical that you know, you come from that kind of NVC, nonviolent communication standpoint, hopefully using story, hopefully using your own personal I statements, and yeah, just being in and doing that with radical honesty and courage. Because yeah, we saw what happened on the debate floor last week, and I think that's one of the many breakdowns of a system that doesn't listen to each other. Anyway, so let me go ahead and just share this premiere, because the video just launched. Oh, and by the way, you all can find me on Spotify and YouTube and all that stuff. I would love to build a community together, because I think this Humanity Rising community is so powerful. It's such an incredible answer to the times that we're in. I know Jim's sobering reminder about the devastation of the pandemic and how this is something that we are going to have to live with. And yet we are using our creativity and our innovation to actually to come together anyway. And the best of technology hopefully can help us reconnect to our own local communities. I think there's a lot of silver linings. So let's do this together. One bit here I wanted to share. Okay, so Rick, can you kick off that video, and I'll mute my mic and we can enjoy this together.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Aaron. I'm a volunteer calling with Democracy is on the Line. We're checking in to make sure you have a voting plan during the pandemic. What? Oh, I'm sorry, but no, don't spit in my ear. Okay, you're gonna hang up on me. What the hell, yo? I haven't had much luck tonight. I'm gonna take a break. I need to try something different. Maybe, I'm gonna call on my ancestors. They'll know what to do. Granddad? Grandson, is that you?
Hey, Rick, there's
Wow.
there's a box in the middle.
Yes, I've been
Would you
having
want to
such
start
a
it one more
hard
time?
time, Granddad. It's tough down here with all these crises, and I'm trying to raise my next generation, my daughter.
Thank you. So sorry to interrupt.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Aaron. I'm a volunteer calling with Democracy is on the Line. We're checking in to make sure you have a voting plan during the pandemic. What? Oh, I'm sorry, but no, don't spit in my ear. Okay, you're gonna hang up on me. What the hell, yo? I'm gonna have much luck tonight. I'm gonna take a break. I need to try something different. Maybe. Oh, I'm gonna call on my ancestors. They'll know what to do. Granddad?
Grandson, is that you? Wow.
You answered. Thank you. Yes, I've been having such a hard time, Granddad. It's tough down here with all these crises, and I'm trying to raise my next generation. My daughter, she's only 3. She needs a better world. We need better leadership. We got to do this, and I need to spread the word with my creativity. Can you help?
Oh, I'm coming right now. I know when the ancestors are called, we must show up. I'm here for you. Yes, let's resolve it.
Once upon a time, my granddad told me how life is like Noah's boat. 2 by 2 we come down, but if humankind is unkind, we lose our place at the bow. We get an entry, welcome to ground band love, or see love all around the town. So what's the choice if the choice is always now? If caring for life is our only constitution bound. Like how does freedom sound? Oh, say can't you see by the dawn's last plea what so proudly we felt for the people away in this land. It is not your land, this land is not my land. Until we are all truly free, or truly, truly free. Every generation must fight for rights, be proud. We've chanted down armies, mobs and crowds. Risked it all, nothing to lose but our doubt. Marching against slavery, traffic girls, broken poles. Can we help Lady Liberty get back a glow? Oh, say can't you see by the dawn's last plea what so proudly we felt for the people away in this land. It is not your land, this land is not my land. Until we are all truly free, or truly, truly free. America, what are we creating now? To vote or not to vote, I'd like to know if the power of we can topple the iron tower. If a fish can see through its dirty water, remember we're all alive because the others win when we realize we're all sisters and brothers in this nation of rainbows fighting over one color. Oh, say can't you see by the dawn's last plea what so proudly we felt for the people away in this land. It is not your land, this land is not my land. Until we are all truly free, or truly, truly free. I want to jump in my road. We made the world and lose us out of all military funds and social security gone. Why police and state sanctioning controls guns, cause school kids scared of on the road. No more Valkyrie brands, then true nature scrolls. You can't stop signs for lack of cash to go. You can't stop love for nothing, no, no, no. Oh, say can't you see by the dawn's last plea what so proudly we felt for the people away in this land. It is not your land, this land is not my land. Until we are all truly free, or truly, truly free.
Thank you all so much for for checking that out. You're the first to see it. So it just launched. Please do spread that far and wide, share it with folks. Hopefully that all of us can continue to elevate and amplify media that moves us forward, helps us reimagine our current scenario and all of the insanity that we're going through. Because I for one, as someone that has performed extensively and worked extensively with children, have seen the power of media and story on our youngest amongst us. And I do believe that we are hardwired for storytelling and narrative. And when you combine that with music, I think it's a really exciting way to engage not just children like my daughter, who's a toddler, but all the way up, because we're all just big kids anyway. And I think that if we don't bring that joy into our movements, it's certainly not going to attract the kind of the different poles and the polarization. It's not going to attract us together in the ways that I see what's needed, right? We absolutely need to unite at this very moment around solutions. Absolutely, this political election is fundamental to the future of the world. And immediately thereafter, we need to just turbocharge our demand for climate solutions, not just rejoining the Paris Climate Accord. I was there in Paris, and marching with indigenous leaders and youth, that which inspired Greta and the Gretas of the world, but moving even more aggressively, because we're seeing the ways in which our biodiversity and ecological crisis it certainly created the pandemic. It's created the wildfires in my home state and across the West. It's increasing storms. It's destabilizing our food and water. And great film. I want to put a plug in there just while we're talking about the joy of entertainment. Kiss the Ground on Netflix is a story about regenerative agriculture. I've worked with that organization and they're phenomenal. Please do check that out and tune into the solutions movement around climate in particular. Let's spend the last five or so minutes, because today is a little bit of a shorter program, just to tune in with some of what's been shared. So let's see, we have, we actually have, my daughter may join us here for a moment, speaking of the next generation. So joy is what we can unite around. Joy in meeting the challenges in the day, and then rest together. Joy in being alive and being able to make choices to move together in the world we want. Yeah, this is really you want to sit with me, babe? You want to sit with me? I'm on a program with a lot of people. Well, they're just sharing through their words and their presence. This is life in the pandemic. It's, you get interrupted by the reason why we're all here, and it's something I'm really learning to embrace as a father, is really just how do I bring my daughter into everything I do, and to share with vulnerability that journey, because of how critical it is. I mean, she's the reason I do everything. We need to practice sharing real value and life itself, not just money, but by being helpful to those around. I'll say the names. Stanley says, that we need to practice sharing real value in life itself, not just money, by being helpful to those people around us, even those we disagree with. I love that. Maria says, watch the David Attenborough recent film, A Call to Inhabitants of Our Pachamama. Diane says we can starve the corporations by taking care what we buy. Deborah, this helps me every day throughout the day. Confer a new spirit upon all people and bestow upon them eternal life. Wow, this is great. You guys should, I'm sure everybody's checking out the chat room. I was looking for some oh, thank you for the kind words. Yeah, Catherine, this is an angst-ridden time with this election, but continue to tune in with yourself and your own inner power, because you have that resilience available to you. Malini says, in India, we say you have 3 lands. 1, your Janam Bhumi, the land of your birth. 2, your Karma Bhumi, the land of your duty or work or mission. And 3, Dharma Bhumi, the land of your spiritual mission. Wow. Oh, we need to do a whole program just on that. Malini, you're gonna have to get in touch with Jim. We can learn a lot from you, and we can learn a lot from each of us here, a part of this. Shielding our children is not helpful. That's part of what created the problem. Our entertainers will lead us forward. Dancing. This is great, and thank you all so much. For indulging this conversation and exploring the depth and breadth of it. It is messy, and we are in, we're in a messy time. It's confronting, it's uncomfortable, and that's the beauty of change. It's not, no one ever said it was easy for that caterpillar to become the butterfly, and we're there, so let's encourage each other and continue to come together and take action with that encouragement, with that courage, inside encouragement. Let's really advocate for, celebrate, be unbridled in our love right now, because that to me seems most paramount for moving forward and helping to rebuild. I mean, it's a fundamental rebuild that human societies are going to have to go through. The butterfly, phoenix, dragon, humanity is rising, composting into a rich soil. Yeah, so let's support each other. I encourage all of you to subscribe and to my channels, to check out what I'm doing on Spotify. I've got this. I actually have a new book out and a new album that's available on my website, and I would really just encourage all of you to support independent artists and creatives across the board, to continue to be in solidarity with frontlines communities, and to know where you stand, and the power of your voice, of each of our voices, right? Because collectively we can rebuild this nation. Anyway, that's my 2 cents for the day. I will be doing a comedy show next on, no, I'm just joking. Maybe that's the next evolution. Jim, I'm so grateful to you for just holding this space and continuing to welcome such a vast diversity of perspective and story into this virtual fireplace. And I'm really, really excited to and honored to be a part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aaron. The points that you touched on are critical points. In any democracy, it's the capacity to honor diversity, understand difference within a sacred container in which each individual, in all the resplendence of their individuality, is honored for who they are. In the extraordinary experiment, I would say that has been the United States of America. The United States of America is one of the few countries in all of human history that invited people from everywhere to come to our shores. If you think of the European countries, you know, France or Germany or Russia or China or, you know, in Africa or India, the civilizations and the nation states kind of emerged from the people that were there. And there were invasions and conquests, you know, episodically. But it was the United States that was the first country that said, we are a new world. And we invited diversity. We invited difference. And of course, there were racial stereotypings, you know, 100 years ago is for a time, you know, the country tried to keep out the Irish or the Italian or, you know, some of the Japanese, et cetera. But by and large, we became a melting pot. And we've had our ups and downs, no doubt about it. But we have persevered in expanding over time the meaning of democracy and the inclusion of democracy. So I just want to thank you for your music and your passion and the soul that you carry in your work. I can feel how much you love your daughter. And, you know, she's the future. We've got to make sure that the future we leave her is worthy of her. And I know you're doing it in the way that you can. And basically, everyone, this is about get out the vote. It's about participating in this great democracy. So thank you, Aaron, for all that you're doing. And we wish you well. And then tomorrow, everyone, we will be entering into another domain with Jewel Bestova, who will be with several other people exploring the journey that we're taking through this pandemic into the light. And that will be a very interesting exploration. I noted in one of the chats that someone was chiding me for being a bit negative today as I opened up Humanity Rising. Let me make a comment on that. It's not my intent to be negative or positive. What we try to do on Humanity Rising is honor the complexity of the world. As the great philosopher of the last century, Alfred North Whitehead, said, the complexity of life is such that Christ is crucified and the fairies dance. Life is a many splendored thing. It's about suffering. It's about compassion. It's about pain. It's about joy. It's about pandemics. It's about celebrating a newborn child. It's about spirituality. It's about money. It's about many, many different things. So as the news unfolds day by day, what we've been trying to do on Humanity Rising is simply honor the news of the day. And today it happened to be the report of the World Health Organization around the projected numbers of COVID cases. So we brought that to your attention. And then Aaron graced us with music and song, celebrating democracy, celebrating diversity, encouraging people to get out and vote. Because he's right. The only thing that's going to ensure democracy endures in America is an overwhelming vote. And that's what we're encouraging in Humanity Rising. And each day, there will be wonderful things that happen. There will be painful things that happen. And I hope that all of you will be tolerant of the news. There's a lot of bad news going on right now. And that's one reason why we brought Humanity Rising into being. So we could celebrate the goodness, celebrate the solutions, celebrate the celebrations that are going on around the world. And I would say in closing, I've never been more optimistic than convening each day as I do Humanity Rising, because I'm with people like Aaron Ableman. And it was beautiful to have his daughter, kind of nose her way in and join in the session today. And each day we'll celebrate life as we can. So thank you, everyone. This has been a powerful day 110. And tomorrow we'll come together, same time, 5:00 p.m. Central European time, to discuss this journey that we're all going through from darkness into the light. Bye, everyone. Celebrate life. Love someone, hug someone. Be well.